For our Country Viewpoint program, great to be chatting again with Andrew Partridge from Michell Wool. How are you, Andrew?
Very well, thank you, Ricky.
We were watching the market last week knowing that Western Australia was having a week off because of a public holiday. Did we see some prices go upwards as a result of all of that?
Surprisingly enough, we did, Ricky. I was a little bit cautious. I didn't want to, low supply doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have the demand to back it up, but sure enough, the extra bidding in the market this week, and we saw a 24-cent rise back in the indicator, back up to 1,438. EMI in US also up as well. Currency sort of not doing a lot. So, good strong market.
Yeah, and that's a very healthy number, but it's not all because of, a public holiday in one market. There's a few other drivers going on as well.
There is, mate. Yeah, it certainly is. So what's going on generally speaking, you'll hear me talk about this a little bit. There's sort of two sort of certain players in the market. There's a trader who sells forward, so he makes a contract overseas and then he steps into the market to buy the wool. And it's his profit or loss, so it's his gain or his loss in the market. And then you've got the hand-to-mouth operators. They're the indent fellas, so generally they're placing orders. There'll be a mill in China or anywhere else in the world placing a price that he's happy to pay for wool directly to a buyer in the room, and the buyer in the room basically essentially is a commission buyer. He has no risk. He just buys the wool at the prevailing price. So we're seeing those hand-to-mouth guys very strong in the market at the moment. Smaller offering. Those guys that are buying direct to mills, they've got the specifications, and it really did drive the merino market, particularly, Ricky. Crossbred and everything didn't do much, but merino fleece drove that market, and we're looking at most of the merino indicators up 30 to 40 cents for the week.
Now, we mentioned, I think, in your last week's report, things were starting to really fire up and get as normal as they could in China, which is a big buyer. Is that started to feed into some more demand coming into the market?
I think so, yeah. Look, it might be early days. Certainly creating some confidence. Generally, we've got a couple of agents that we deal with our mill in China, of course, so the agents are obviously locals over there, so we get the really sensitive data coming over there, and they're having... 2 weeks or 10 days ago when they got the official notice, he's putting a photo up of the joy of being able to walk in the street instead of being locked up in their home. So
simple pleasures.
Excited about it. Simple pleasures in life that we take for granted. But and then the one that most recently was, I think they've got a test every 72 hours. Every Chinaman has to get a COVID test.
Everyone.
Yeah, that's a lot of test kits, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But things are starting to get moving, at least even under that sort of testing arrangement. We're seeing some demand in the market there. Do you think that this week's improvement on price is sort of a one-off, or is there a possibility it could kick on?
24 hours ago, I was a bit sceptical, but we're just getting a bit of inquiry coming through from overseas this morning from our mills and that we deal with. There has been a bit of a follow-up in the market, so that's very encouraging, considering the last 6 months, any sort of 10 or 20 cent rise was met with resistance. So there's obviously a bit of a need to buy wool. Their seasons are sort of basically the opposite to us at the moment, so they're running through their sort of hotter months, but they must be predicting in the colder months, so coming up in a few months' time, there's going to be some demand there. So we've been talking about that pipeline being pretty empty. And they're obviously seeing a bit of need to fill up their pipeline a bit, so they're having to buy wool even at these dearer levels. So, yeah, let's hope that it continues.
Yeah, you'd say their pipeline has been a bit empty, but from what we've been talking about, even with Stephen Reid in the past, there was plenty of wool all over the market, sort of waiting to move around. Have we still got that, or is it all starting to move? We're starting to empty some warehouses.
Yeah, interesting comment. Yeah, no, it's certainly back in Australia, a different story. We're chock-a-block. Yeah, most brokers are very full. And of course, we've been talking about the crossbred market being depressed, and probably the lion's share of that held wool would be the crossbred types. And they did nothing this week, by the way. 28 micron indicator, it was up 10 cents, but it's now 400 cents. It's up to 420 now. You're looking at 90 micron indicator, sort of 1750, 1770. So looking at $18 clean, which is haven't seen that price for a little while. So yeah, crossbreds probably will remain in store. I believe most country areas are having a good year, so the farmers like to punt their little bit when they've got an extra bit of cash in the bank, but it'll have to come due at some time, won't it? It'll have to come on the market at some stage.
Yeah, well, all of those indicators, plenty of honey in the market. Are the Bears going to come out and put plenty up for next week's auctions? What are we looking at is going to be available this week?
Yeah, so we're still under 40,000, so we're keeping that sort of mid-35 range as a nice sweet number for the market. It seems for both buyers and sellers it makes for a good market. When we push up to 50,000 nationally, it's usually a bit of a tester, so the Bears will be out looking scrounging around for some honey next week for sure, I reckon, Rick.
Absolutely. All right, Andrew, thanks very much for your time today. I appreciate it. That's Andrew Partridge from Michell Wool.
Beauty.